Welcome to Leader U by Black River Performance Management, where we believe work should fuel the human spirit, not drain it. In this leadership podcast, we will dive into the lived experiences of people flourishing in today's workplace and beyond. Join us to hear real-life examples of experiences from our own lives and from the leaders we know and trust.
So my involvement with Zonta International has been going on for the last couple of years, and I got the privilege to get to know the new president of Zonta International and Megan, who is the executive director. I've been working with them and working with the Zonta International leadership team, and I've really learned to really appreciate what this organization is doing internationally. I really wanted to bring awareness to building a better world for women and girls and why that's important to me and why it impacts our bottom line. It impacts our, human rights, all of these things. But I thought better them to explain it than me, and they are celebrating their 105th anniversary. And so I really wanted to highlight this and highlight them and share this journey that they've been on and that I've been on, and hopefully you enjoy this. So Salla, let's start with Salla. Salla Tuominen. She is the third generation Zonchan, and she has been a member since 2005. She's a seasoned Zonta leader, and she has served on the international board as director, vice president, and president-elect. She has extensive experience within her district board, having served in almost all roles. As an attorney at law, specializing in both domestic and international corporate transactions, Salla keeps a can-do attitude while working under enormous time pressure with complex legal and strategical issues alongside international teams. Salla's goal for her leadership is to integrate sustainability into all of Zonta's business and for the organization's long-term strategic planning, ensuring that Zonta's focus areas contribute to a more sustainable future. She's committed to fostering the Zonta spirit, a culture of belonging, community, inspiration, and a passion for Zonta's mission throughout the organizational structure. She aims to simplify for greater efficiency. Salla is a gem, and so is Megan Radavich. I'm glad to have both of them here on the show with me today. Thank you for listening, and if you find this interesting or impactful or it's resonated with you in any way, I'm going to ask you to please send it on to somebody, share this message, and thank you for listening, and remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Megan Radavich is the Executive Director of Zonta International and Zonta Foundation for Women. As the Chief Staff Executive, she oversees the work and the International Headquarters team and collaborates with volunteers and staff to develop organizational membership and fundraising strategies to support the Zonta International and Zonta Foundation for Women boards in reaching their strategic goals. Megan has been with Zonta International for 15 years and has extensive experience in association management, governance, communication, fundraising, advocacy, and program administration. She has a Bachelor of Arts in English and Political Science with more minors in Spanish and Women's Studies from Loyola University Chicago. She received her Certified Association Executive Credential from the American Society of Association Executives. Thank you for being on the show today. Hello, and thank you for listening to the Leader U podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing two very special ladies. Salla, do you want to start us off today with a little bit about your story and how you got involved with Zonta International?
Happy to. I'm a third generation Johnson, so perhaps this is a kind of a not a typical story, but could be a typical story. However, it all started with me finalizing law school studies here in Finland. I had been very, very active during the studying years in a student association. And once I graduated, I thought that now I will just, concentrate on myself, go to work and do all kind of a hobbies related stuff in the evenings and weekends and so. Well, I'm a bit of a kind of a project type of a person. I like all kinds of challenges. I want to do things. I want to meet people, all these kind of things. So just working and not really having certain projects got quite boring quite soon. Mm-hmm. So my mother Zonshan then, and actually very much involved here in Finland, in Zonta, said to me that when I was wondering that, what should I do? Should I perhaps do something? I wanted to do something good, something which would be beneficial, for the greater good. And so I was thinking about some animal rights or nature or children or, stuff like that. And she said, why wouldn't you join Zonta? And I was like, quite a proposal, because my understanding of Johnsons at that time, and this has happened like almost 20 years ago, was that they are all very high professionals, well in advanced in their careers. And I was fresh out of the law school, pretty much in my first job, wouldn't really been seeing myself as a kind of a woman in leadership position or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that perhaps that is not something for me, but I gave it a try. I went to the very first club meeting, and here am I today.
Wow, here you are, international president of Zonta International.
Correct.
Since January, right?
Since July.
July, excuse me. That's what I meant to say, because it was in Brisbane where they did the.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I got my months confused. All right, so thank you for introducing yourself. How about you, Megan?
Hi, Angie. Thanks so much for having me. So I was introduced to Zonta a little over 15 years ago. At the time, I was looking for a new career opportunity, and I saw a posting for a communications manager position with Zonta. And to be honest, I had never heard of the organization. And so I did a quick Google search and just loved what I first saw about the organization. Really believe that, through my work, I want to make a difference in the world. And it sounded like that was what Zonta was doing for women and girls all over. And so was really excited to join the team in 2009. And in the last 15 years, I've really worked my way up within the organization and was really honored last October to be appointed the executive director of Zonta. And I've had so many great opportunities over my time with Zonta to really learn and grow and support this amazing organization. And thrilled to be working now with Salla as we look forward to the next 2 years.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. And I'll give a quick story about my Zonta story here too, just so that we can all share it. So I learned about Zonta only a few years ago, and it was in my local chapter, and Stephanie Adams is the one who I had served on a board with her, Idaho State Alumni Board, and I learned about Zonta, and we had some Zontians at Idaho State University, and I started to go to a couple of the events that were for scholarships and these types of things, and I started to see a group of women that, I really identified with the mission and the vision, which we'll get into in a moment. But it really just came through naturally because I was showing up in the same rooms with people, and Stephanie is so dedicated, and I was seeing the work that she was doing, and then I just wanted to become involved when I saw some of the projects that were going on. And then she so graciously introduced me to you all, and I got to speak at your Region 8, District 8 conference, District 8 conference in Coos Bay, Oregon. I got to be a speaker, and that's when I got to meet you ladies. And so this is a full circle a year later, a little over a year, right? That we've been working together. And the reason I wanted to bring you on to the podcast today is because I love the mission. For one, Rob and I believe that work should fuel the human spirit, not drain it. And I know that the work that you're doing is the light work of the world, which is building a better world for women and girls. I understand the mission and the vision, but sometimes I'm not the best at explaining why, because I don't have the language to explain what that actually looks like on a global perspective. And I know what the work looks like in my community, and how that work shows up, but I don't know on the global perspective what you're seeing every day And so that's what I was hoping that you two could share, how women and girls are impacted by things that might show up differently than it does for men.
Shall I start?
Yes.
And Megan, you can then continue. But uh, we could start with our focus areas, which are aligned in our revised strategy, or quite a fresh strategy from last year. And perhaps that really tells about quite a many issues actually women and girls are facing in the world, even still today, year 2024. And unfortunately, it looks like that they will continue to face similar type of challenges if there is no such women like Zonshans, such men like Zonshans, who will speak for them, who will be their eyes, their mouth, and their ears. And we do have 4 focus areas where we really want to make difference. It's Zonta International is a human rights organization. It really gets back to the basic human rights. And therefore, we are focusing on ending gender-based violence. We, of course, talk about violence against women. And it's a drastic amount of women who face basically every day some sort of violence, be it physical, be it sexual, be it mental, financial, whatever type of violence. But talking only about physical violence, it's every 3rd woman in the world has at some point faced gender-based violence. It's just an awful figure, and think about how does it really affect our societies if we allow such thing. And if there is no such mechanism like regulation which would prevent that happen or help with these victims, and give them support. That's one issue. We can also, of course, discuss much more about this, but let me describe this in a kind of high level. And another thing where we really want to put emphasis during this next few years is climate justice. And one could ask that why is women's organization like Zonta International worried about climate change? Well, we are, of course, worried about climate change, but it's not about the climate change we are advocating. We are actually talking about how the climate change affects women and girls, and there is a huge difference between men and female. What does it mean? Megan, perhaps you can take a bit more examples here. But then the third focus, what we have is women in leadership positions. As we know, once again, women are underrepresented. Be it in the business world, be it on the public sector, parliaments, governments, whatever. Typically, women are the underrepresented gender in these places. Women are needed in the decision-making tables. We cannot tolerate that half of the population are left behind. And last but not least, our focus area is education equality. And once again, we are talking about very basic human rights issue. Girls would need to be at school, not being brides, not being working, not doing anything like that. Let them be girls, let them get educated, let them be a part of the society, and let them be able to fulfill their own huge potential. What is it there? So these 4 very critical issues, which are not just women's issues, they are really for the whole society. Those are the ones we want to make difference and work, and we want to do advocacy. We want to change the legislation where it's needed. We want to close the loopholes. We want new regulation to protect women and girls and empower them. But we also want that people around us understand it. It's something that everybody, all in the society should understand. But perhaps I leave it to you, Megan, to describe some of these things a bit more in detail.
Oh, thank you. That was a good high level overview. So you want to get more in the weeds a little bit, Megan?
Sure. Well, I think it's important, Angie, you mentioned that you know what Zonta looks like at the local level. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that it does look different in communities all across the world. So we have almost 1,100 clubs in 64 countries. And those clubs really determine what are the most pressing issues facing women and girls in their community and what can they do about it, either through advocacy, like Salla described, or through service projects that they can contribute to hands-on on the ground, or through fundraising and supporting organizations working in their local communities. But we also, as an international organization, we see our clubs joining together to do advocacy at the national level through caucuses and unions. So these are groups of Zonta clubs that join together to maximize their efforts and bring these issues forth to change legislation, as Salla described. So we have that local, national, and then internationally. Zonta is very active at the United Nations. We have volunteer committee members in New York, Geneva, Paris, Vienna, Bangkok, Nairobi, a huge group of volunteers that are working to elevate these issues in international conversations as well. And then we have a volunteer committee that's working at the Council of Europe too. So we kind of have that local, national, and international approach to what we do. Salla mentioned the 4 focus areas. So we try to focus on those at all levels of the organization. And at the international level, in addition to our advocacy, we fund projects through the United Nations agencies to support those efforts. So we have 3 projects that we'll be funding over the next 2 years. The first is what we call our signature project. It's the global program to end child marriage. And this is a huge issue affecting about 12 million girls every single year.
Wow.
And it's an issue that's relevant in countries all over the world, including the US where I live, where we're working to end child marriage in all 50 states. And then we have 2 new projects that we're working on. The first is a project called Climate Empower in Madagascar, Mozambique, and South Sudan. And it's really going back to what Salla was talking about, climate justice and how climate change uniquely impacts women and girls, and addressing those unique impacts. Things like interruptions to their education, greater risk of child marriage, lack of economic opportunity, lots of things that you don't think about when you hear the term climate change. And then finally, we're supporting a somewhat new type of project for Zonta. It's called LAHA, and it's a project with UNICEF, and it's a digital platform to provide services to women and girls in all different contexts around the world. So it's digital resources to give them support if they're experiencing violence or displacement, or questions about their reproductive health. So all different kinds of services provided in this digital platform called LAHA. And so we're really excited to support this new initiative with UNICEF as well. So those are just a few of the ways we do the work internationally, beyond what you may see in your local community.
That's great. That's it. And this is what is so fascinating, is that most of the people that ask the questions don't know all of the things that you just shared. Like, how would you know if you haven't had anybody explain to you how climate can affect girls or women into sex trade or child marriage, being displaced, not getting education, all of these types of things. So what has been one of the best projects that you have gotten to work on, and what is it that really fuels you, for both of you, that you've seen some really good impact areas?
Which one of us
Either,
starts?
yeah, go.
Would you like to Megan go first?
Okay, go ahead,
Sure, I
Megan.
can start. So I think, in a few weeks, we'll be starting our Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women campaign and the 16 Days of Activism. And this is one of my favorite kind of Zonta campaigns or initiatives. And I think part of it is because I've been there since the beginning of the campaign. So it started in 2012. And when it started, we were really looking at the campaign kind of twofold. One, how could we raise greater awareness of the issue of violence against women, which Salla mentioned, just physical violence affects 1 in 3 women worldwide. So how could we bring greater awareness to the issue while also raising awareness of Zonta and the work that we are doing around the world to address this issue? And so it started off as kind of an awareness raising campaign back in 2012. And over the last 12 years, I have just been so inspired by how much the campaign has grown and how much it has transformed to not just continue to raise awareness, but also to take real concrete advocacy actions, in local communities at the national level, to really change the course of the conversation and to help make sure that people are aware of what's happening and what's needed to combat this problem. And so I love, seeing those actions from all over the Zonta world. It's a kind of a sea of orange from November 25th to December 10th. And I think it's something that's really brought the entire Zonta community together globally. And so for that reason, I think that's probably the project I'm most proud of during my time at Zonta.
Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Salla?
Could pick up Megan. I also really think that this is an effective way of making difference. And unfortunately, there is no country in this world which violence against women wouldn't be a problem. So it's really topical all over the world. And we are a global organization, so it's a great program which is kind of interesting everywhere. But I could say ending child marriage has been something which I think that has been really something during the last few years, which has really we have been paying a lot of attention to that, but it has also been emphasized externally, and I think that's been great thing because perhaps earlier Zonta had certain child marriage related programs already earlier, but 2018, when we voted ending child marriage, the current program we are still supporting by our foundation's donations. 2018, we decided that it will become our signature project. There were a bit of a discussion that, nice project as such, but is it really such a huge problem anywhere else than somewhere far away, perhaps in a global south or so, but that's not really true. And I think also our own eyes have really opened since we took a better study of the challenge and better study of the project, etc. And we have really understood that it is a huge problem also in the Western countries, like, for example, USA. I come from Finland, where also our legislation, it had been for quite some time, tens of years already, so that you couldn't marry as a kid, but there was a loophole. You could still get a kind of a special permit to marry at the age of 17 because of certain exceptional rules or something like that. Well, number-wise, it wasn't such a big problem as such, but in principle, it is a problem if we allow, if the society allows such to happen. And also in Finland, only in 2019, the legislation was amended so that it's total no-go to marry before you are 18 years of age. And same happened then with this project. It's really we got carried away with that. And in 2018, as an example, in the US, there were only 4 states where the child marriage was not allowed.
Wow.
And I mean, thinking about 50 states in the U.S., it's the greatest country in the world. I mean, the biggest economy and all these things. And still in 2020s, I mean, such thing can happen in so many states that it really, really opened our eyes, and we saw that this is a huge problem. And because it causes these girls, sometimes there is no age limit at all. Think about it. Or even if there is an age limit, but it could be 14, 15, 16, whatever, they are still young girls, not women who could decide about their own bodies and what they want to do. They typically, if they get married, they are dropped out of school. Well, that already means that they are kind of dropped out of the society about the possibilities for the future. There are statistics that these girls are facing more violence than girls who are not married, mental healthy, other healthy problems, teenage pregnancies, all these kind of things which basically steal the youth and childhood from the girls. So since then, Sonsons, for example, in the US have been strongly advocating for this issue. And now I believe it's 13 or 14 states currently where also Zontas have been able to contribute to change in the legislation by making this advocacy. So we can really tell that it makes difference when you start to speak, when you start paying attention to these loopholes and the kind of speaking up. What you see is wrong, and that's the same has happened in many other places in Zonta world too. So even though the program we voted was a service project where we donate money, there are professionals who are taking care of that project in 12 countries around the world. It still had kind of indirect implications to our understanding that this is a problem also elsewhere than only in those 12 countries, even though that those 12 countries in Asia, in Africa, are the most vulnerable countries in that terms. But if we have such a problem where hundreds of thousands of girls are marrying in the US in 2020s, it is a problem. And now we really want to change this thing. And it's not only about for me, it's about the human rights and principles and ethics and moral and all these kind of things, but it's also an economical thing. The project targets to end the violence by the 2030. And if we could do that, there would be 386 million more girls completing the school. And what would that mean going forward in the future? $3.1 trillion benefit in economic terms. Wow. It's also something else than just a human rights issue. It's also a societal issue in broader sense. So I have been very proud of following what we have been able to do by choosing this kind of a service project, which has pure implications also to the human rights in a larger perspective, advocacy, and it has also made us to learn how we can be a better advocates for women's rights. So that's I choose the Ending Child Marriage program here as a good example of a campaign or program.
Wow, that is incredible. Do you know the statistics of how many child marriages globally, or even?
Yeah, they say it's 12 million a year, or globally, but it's, that's the number that they know of. And the last number of years have increased the problems with the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, which we've already talked about as well. And then all of these conflicts and crises, war and things like that are also impacting these numbers. So it's a huge, huge problem, as Salla pointed out, and one that is not, a problem over there. It's really a problem everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in our backyard for sure. And this is why people are
interested in getting involved. And men are members of Zonta International too. This is not just a women organization, but the mission is to empower women and girls, or build a better world for women and girls, and end violence against women and equal rights and human rights. Right? That's what it comes down to. This isn't an anti-man thing. And we have some really amazing men that show up at these conferences and are advocates for women and for human rights. Thank you for joining us on the Leader U podcast, sponsored by Black River Performance Management. Leader U is an important part of Black River's initiative to bring high-quality leadership development and organizational performance improvement solutions. Leader U is one of our initiatives that features different speakers whom provide their expertise and perspectives on a variety of workplace topics. I invite you to visit our webpage at www.blackriverpm.com. That is www.blackriver, the letter P as in performance, and the letter M as in management. We offer a wide range of services from training to performance improvement, coaching, retreats, and group facilitation and strategic planning. Our focus is to assist people in better understanding how to lead effectively and impactfully through a variety of evidence-based tools and practices. So let's talk about that. How would somebody get involved with Zonta in their local chapter, wherever they are in the world listening to this?
Yeah,
Well,
oh, go ahead, Salla.
You go. No, you do.
So as I said, we have about 1,100 clubs in 64 countries. You can find the club nearest you very easily on our website. We have a located club feature, but we also offer e-clubs. So if there's not a club in your local community, we'd certainly be happy to help you get one started. But you could also look at it at an e-club as a good introduction to Zonta. And then we also offer supporting memberships. So if you're at a point in your life where you just can't add another meeting or event to your calendar, we certainly understand that. And you can always support Zonta as a supporting member and get all of the information about how you can advocate for women and girls direct from Zonta International. And maybe, Salla, I know you obviously have the firsthand experience of being a club member, so you could talk a little bit more about that.
Oh yes, of course. Anyone who is interested, we are more than welcoming everybody, and would of course like to see many more men joining us nowadays. As noted, human rights, violences, building a better world. It's not just a women's thing for trying to empower women and so it's. I mean, I've always been saying that Zonta is turning 105 years tomorrow, and I'm saying that we have reached this far, basically with women. Now we need 50% of the other population to join us to really take us to the next level in the right way. So everybody who is interested, sharing our values, are more than to welcome. And really, I believe it's also so that the clubs are different. They have their different kind of characters in a way. Clubs are free to choose how they want to operate in certain models, but in a way that so that it is motivational for all of those members. Members are free to choose how do they want, what are the things they want to emphasize, what are the things they want to focus, what are the kind of their way of, for example, fundraising. What are their local projects? I mean, we do not want to give too much of a kind of a micromanaging instructions as such, but of course our mission and vision are the kind of the guiding principles. We do have these 4 focus areas. We would be keen that all of the local clubs are also focusing on, so that, as we know, there are like hundreds of women's issues in the world. We would of course like to solve them all, but it doesn't really make sense to try to do all. So
Mhm.
we will need to focus and be effective in that sense. And the club activities can really vary. There are different type of things. I mean, of course, the kind of the meetings, discussions, sharing information, discussing about advocacy, discussing of these things. Various clubs arrange various type of events like concerts or movies or walk or marathon running events or whatever, in order to raise funds for certain project. And there should of course always be some link to the advocacy topic as such, be it then gender-based violence or whatever. Yeah, people get together typically once a month. It's really that our members, except for those supporting members, which Megan just noted, are really active members. So all of us are doing Zonta. I call it Zontaring. They do Zonta on active level. So they participate. Everybody as such are kind of active members. So we do not have such a passive members who never show up in the club meetings or events or so. So everybody more or less are active. And then if you cannot be active, but you still want to support the vision and mission, then you can be a supporting member. So yeah, different type of things, and it's always so motivating to read about different things that different clubs are arranging. I mean, it's amazing how innovative and creative women can be, and what kind of things they arrange all over the world. I mean, it's always amazes me that, oh, they have chosen this one, how did they make this, and sometimes really make good money out of those things. So they are very generous by themselves, but they have also managed to get good attention from the kind of the external audience. So very inspiring to follow what all kinds of things Zontians do around the world.
Yeah, it is. I'm more of a supporting member just because my travel schedule is not leaving. I want to. I follow all the things, and I tried. I send emails to our president right now and talk to her about what they're doing, and I'm proud of them. And so, but I do promote it, and I try to connect people with the women, with the groups, and I'm active with you all too. So there's ways that you can contribute, even if you can't handle another meeting, or some people just have really full lives, and so they may want to support financially, or they may want to support, and that's one of the ways I do, is just support by paying my dues every year and showing up for those, speaking at engagements, things like that. Different things that you can do. There's a lot of different ways to get involved. It doesn't mean you have to be at every single thing, but it's being a part of it. Or maybe you are looking for a community and you need some like-minded ladies, and you want to connect on a deeper level. Your local communities or some of those meetups would be a great place to connect. Also, the conferences are really fun. I've learned we got to get to know each other at those, and there was a lot of enthusiasm there, and people were very open and willing to get to know each other. And so your next annual conference is in Vancouver, BC?
Correct, in 2026, July.
July of 2026. So, and so can you tell like what kinds of things happen at a conference?
Yes, if we talk about, well, a little administrative story first. So Zonta has administratively been divided into 32 districts around the world, just to make it easier to handle. So they are arranging conferences, and there they make the decision on how the districts want to do things and so on. And those are great opportunities without the need to travel to the other side of the world every second year for convention, really to meet people. And Zonta International is really an international organization. Many of us are also very much inspired by the international aspects of Zonta International. So there is an opportunity to meet women and men from other parts of the world, other countries, and so so network, advance your understanding of women's issues in the neighboring country or so. So those are typically arranged at least once in a biennium. And in addition to kind of the pure Zonta business, typically there are some inspiring speakers like Angie, you were in District 8 conference last year where I spotted yourself. There is an opportunity to educate yourself, to network, to have, good fun dinner, ending up to some karaoke bar afterwards or stuff like that. Just having good time with the like-minded people, and at the same time, of course, discuss on these important topics we have been already discussing here, trying to see what can be done on national or district-wise or locally, what things should be there on the agenda, etc. And then we do have these international conventions every second year, and that's a decision-making body for the whole Zonta International. And that's where all of these districts all around the Zonta world get together and make decisions about the next 2 years. Mm-hmm. And it's a kind of the place where the kind of the biennial goals are voted. So where do we focus really in practical terms for the next 2 years? Then these service projects and educational programs are discussed and voted. Also, any changes to the bylaws, if really necessary, of the organization. It's really the kind of the decisive body of the organization, shows the kind of the next 2 years, and as an important thing, of course, elects the leadership for the organization for the next 2 years. So it's a decisive body. And in addition to all this, once again, really sometimes even difficult Zonta business, there is also an opportunity for networking, seeing old friends, meeting new friends, and understanding and learning new things by different workshops, different topics, typically very, very high level keynote speakers like what we had, for example, this year. I mean, really opportunity to learn and share and get inspired to the job than you do in your local area. When you get back home, you feel very much empowered yourself that, this is the work we want to do. We want to tackle this one. We want to do this because we have made this decision to do it. So really inspiring and a way of meeting people, and with a little fun parts too. I mean, I haven't danced that much for a while. What I did in Brisbane convention, it was a blast.
Absolutely. Everybody loves to get silly at those things. It's a lot of fun to watch. I loved it. I got to be at your headquarters in Chicago.
Right.
And I remember the cheerleaders, the outfits, and
right.
just different things that are happening. And it's just fun to see. I love the work you're doing, and I'm grateful for you. You said that tomorrow is 105 years.
Correct.
Well, I'm going to see what my podcast team can do to make this one available tomorrow. We'll see what they say.
No pressure.
No pressure, John, but I don't know. This is really an honor. I love that we get to work together and build a strong leadership team of strong women that are in the leadership, the governance of Zonta International, so that they can lead their districts and feel empowered and feel like they understand each other better and they work well. Because sometimes if we don't work on ourselves and enhance our leadership skills, we can actually be the bottleneck for that district to be not as effective. So it's important that we look at ourselves and our internal customers, which are the people that are inside that we're serving. And when we're working with nonprofits, I do notice that oftentimes they forget that piece, that we really need to empower the people that are doing the work. We're so gracious to give out, but charity actually starts within, and it starts with ourselves and really building ourselves up as leaders and understanding ourselves and showing up as self-leaders so that we can be a leader and an influencer so that people want to follow us. Not because we have a title, but because we're worth following.
And we are trying to light a path and go after a mission that is super important to all of us, and that we can let some of our little differences that we have as humans and different perspectives and viewpoints and all this, but to be able to put those aside and recognize that all of this diversity of perspective and beliefs and thoughts, when we bring everybody to the table, it really is a place where we can solve bigger problems when we all have a voice.
Exactly. You nailed it.
Well, I'm grateful for you both. Thank you for the work you're doing. I'm excited to see you in Chicago in February, right? Is it January? February. January. I don't know. I can't even believe it's almost December right now. It's like time is flying. So I'm grateful to have you on the podcast, and I hope that you can share it with your network, because I really do believe that people want to do better. They just don't know. They really don't know how they can help. They don't know what organizations are out there. And so this is one of the ways that I feel like we can share the work you're doing. And there's going to be a lot of women and men that see why you're doing the work that you're doing. There's a need that maybe they didn't know about before. And they may not have thought about how climate could impact women and children differently than it does men, and it could take them out of their education, or they get married earlier, get put into sex trade, or even simple things as not even having feminine hygiene products can keep girls home from school. And when somebody's in charge of the money and they're not allowed to have it, like, those are things that actually happen. And I know that people don't think that, but it's things that actually happen in the world today.
Exactly. Every single day.
Every single day. So thank you. I'm grateful to have you on here, and I appreciate the work that you're doing to make a world better for women and girls.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, Angie.
Thank you.